Welcome back to my channel. Seth Rollins just made what might be the coldest, most deliberate, and most ruthless decision of his entire career by swapping out Austin Theory for Buddy Matthews, and it happened with such speed and precision that it left the entire wrestling world stunned. In less than a single day after Austin Theory walked away from the Vision, Seth Rollins appeared backstage on SmackDown alongside Buddy Matthews, the real-life partner of Rhea Ripley, presenting him as the newest piece in his ever-evolving chess game. This was not about rebuilding or repairing a broken group, it was about making a point, and that point was clear to everyone watching. Seth Rollins does not value loyalty, friendship, or unity, only usefulness. Anyone who serves his vision is disposable the moment they stop benefiting him. By bringing in Buddy Matthews so quickly, Seth sent a chilling message to the locker room that nobody is special, nobody is safe, and nobody is irreplaceable. The Vision will move forward regardless of who gets crushed under its weight, and the hands doing the damage can change at any moment. What makes this entire situation so enraging to many fans is not just the replacement itself, but who Seth chose to replace Theory with. Buddy Matthews built an entire reputation in AEW around speaking out for wrestlers' rights, creative freedom, and escaping what he once called a restrictive system. He publicly positioned himself as someone who stood for artistic expression and independence, only to turn around and align himself with one of the most controlling and manipulative figures currently portrayed on WWE television. For many fans, this felt like a complete abandonment of everything Buddy claimed to believe in, and it immediately split the wrestling community down the middle in a way not seen since Cody Rhodes made his controversial return to WWE. Before even diving into the future implications of this alliance, it is important to understand why this moment hit such a nerve. Buddy Matthews spent years in AEW portraying WWE as a place where creativity goes to die and wrestlers are trapped in rigid roles. As a core member of the House of Black, he was presented as part of a dark, unified faction with a clear identity and long-term vision, and many believed he was deeply committed to that path. Yet the moment Seth Rollins dangled the promise of WrestleMania moments, championships, and main roster exposure, Buddy walked away from all of that without hesitation. To many fans, it felt like proof that his past speeches were empty words, and that principle quickly gave way to ambition. The hypocrisy was impossible to ignore, and it made what happened on SmackDown feel even more calculated. The show opened with Seth Rollins backstage alongside the authors of Pain, Akam, and Rezar, caught in a tense locker room discussion. Seth was visibly agitated, pacing back and forth as he reframed Austin Theory's departure not as a failure, but as a necessary cleansing. He spoke about Theory as weak, ungrateful, and undeserving of protection, insisting that the Vision was never diminished by losing him. Instead, Seth claimed the loss only revealed how many others would gladly step into that role. Akam and Rezar listened closely, their expressions unreadable, clearly absorbing Seth's justification while silently evaluating his leadership. Seth then dropped the bombshell, confidently stating that Theory had already been replaced by someone more seasoned, more intense, and far more committed. At that exact moment, the locker room door opened and Buddy Matthews stepped into frame, sending shockwaves through the audience. Dressed in black from head to toe, he carried himself with a cold confidence that immediately set the tone. Seth smiled like a man who knew he had just won a psychological war, proudly introducing Buddy as the newest member of the Vision, praising his understanding of sacrifice and his willingness to do whatever it takes to reach the top. Buddy shook hands with Seth and acknowledged the authors of Pain, his demeanor serious and businesslike. This was not the outspoken rebel from AEW, but a man who had clearly decided that opportunity mattered more than ideology. Buddy spoke about learning that there is no true alternative to being at the very top of the industry, and that joining the Vision was his path to main events, meaningful championships, and historical moments. Those words alone ignited backlash online, as fans flooded social media accusing him of selling out. Seth, however, reveled in it, praising Buddy for understanding that success demands sacrifice and that the mission always comes before individual ego. Seth then laid out the plan for the night, revealing that Buddy would make his in-ring statement against Braun Breaker, a man who represented everything Seth felt threatened by youth, raw athleticism, and organic fan support. Braun had also aligned himself against the Vision by helping Austin Theory, making him the perfect target. Buddy accepted without hesitation, promising domination and warning that heroes do not survive in Seth Rollins' world. As the segment ended, the group stood united, but subtle glances exchanged by Akam and Rezar hinted at unease, as if they were already questioning how easily one member had been erased. Later, Buddy Matthews addressed the situation in a backstage interview, bluntly framing wrestling as a business and loyalty as something that often goes unrewarded. He spoke about broken promises and stagnation, claiming Seth offered a clear path to relevance and power. When pressed about his past criticisms of WWE, Buddy dismissed them as the perspective of an outsider, insisting that compromise is necessary for success. His pointed remarks about Austin Theory reinforced the narrative Seth was building, portraying Theory as weak and Buddy as strong. From there, the damage extended beyond the storyline. Buddy's credibility with hardcore fans took a massive hit. AEW was framed by critics as a stepping stone rather than a destination. The House of Black suddenly felt incomplete, and Rhea Ripley was placed in an awkward position due to her real-life relationship with Buddy. Even more troubling was the obvious parallel to Austin Theory's fate, as Buddy now appeared to be walking straight into the same trap, trusting a man known for discarding allies the moment they stopped being useful. The match between Buddy Matthews and Braun Breaker delivered in ring, showcasing intensity, power, and skill, but the ending reinforced everything fans feared. Interference from the authors of Pain led to Buddy stealing the win, keeping the Vision dominant while denying Braun a fair outcome. Seth celebrated afterward, declaring loyalty and sacrifice as the core values of his faction while issuing a warning to the entire SmackDown roster. No one answered his challenge, not because they lacked courage, but because Seth's manipulation and muscle had created a climate of fear. Austin Theory was later shown watching from backstage, his expression reflecting both relief and concern, knowing Buddy was repeating his mistakes. Looking ahead, the implications are massive. Seth's history suggests Buddy's role may be temporary, Rhea Ripley's involvement could complicate things further, and the authors of Pain may begin to question their own security. Potential rivals are lining up, from Braun Breaker seeking revenge to possible alliances forming among babyfaces, even opening the door for legendary figures to step in. Championships, Royal Rumble chaos, WrestleMania showdowns, and internal betrayals all loom on the horizon. What remains clear is that Seth Rollins never wanted a family, only control, and Buddy Matthews may have sacrificed far more than he realizes to gain a spot in the Vision. The cracks are forming, tension is building, and SmackDown feels like a powder keg waiting to explode. The only unanswered question is who will finally stand up, challenge Seth's tyranny, and bring his empire crashing down, because until that happens, the Vision's reign of manipulation and fear is far from over. As this storyline continues to unfold, the tension surrounding the Vision only grows heavier with each passing week, and the atmosphere on SmackDown feels increasingly suffocating. Seth Rollins has created an environment where uncertainty thrives, where every wrestler backstage is forced to question not only their enemies, but their allies as well. Buddy Matthews may believe he has secured his place by pledging allegiance to Seth's cause, but history has already shown that security within the Vision is an illusion. Seth thrives on control, and control requires constant imbalance. The moment someone believes they are indispensable is the moment Seth starts planning how to replace them. That reality looms over Buddy like a shadow, even if he refuses to acknowledge it. What makes this arc so compelling is that Seth is not hiding his intentions. He is openly telling the locker room that loyalty is temporary, usefulness is everything, and sentiment has no place in his world. In doing so, he is daring someone to stand up and challenge not just his power, but the philosophy behind it. Yet no one has done so, and that silence speaks volumes. The babyfaces are fractured, lacking unity, and Seth knows it. He knows fear is just as effective as physical dominance, and with the authors of Pain standing beside him and Buddy Matthews proving his willingness to cross any line, Seth's grip tightens even further. Buddy's presence adds a dangerous edge to the Vision because he is not merely muscle. He is a world-traveled performer with credibility, intensity, and a chip on his shoulder. That combination makes him unpredictable, and unpredictability is exactly what Seth values. However, it also makes Buddy a potential liability. Unlike Austin Theory, Buddy does not need validation from Seth in the same way. He sees himself as a made man, someone who believes he earned this opportunity rather than being handed it. That confidence could eventually clash with Seth's need to be the unquestioned center of attention. For now, though, Buddy is playing his role perfectly, leaning into the cold, ruthless persona that aligns with the Vision's mission. Each week he becomes more entrenched, more involved in the group's assaults, promos, and mind games. Fans continue to debate whether this version of Buddy Matthews is genuine or simply a mask worn for survival. Meanwhile, the authors of Pain remain an intriguing wild card. Akam and Rizar are loyal soldiers, but they are not blind. They have watched Seth discard Austin Theory without hesitation, and they have heard Seth praise Buddy in the same way he once praised Theory. That pattern is impossible to ignore. Their glances, their silence, their body language all suggest that doubt is slowly creeping in. They may not act on it yet, but Seth's greatest weakness has always been underestimating how much people observe him. Seeds planted in silence have a way of growing when pressure mounts. On the opposite side of the spectrum, the SmackDown locker room is quietly reaching a breaking point. Wrestlers like LA Knight, Braun Breaker, and others who have been pushed aside by the Vision's dominance are beginning to realize that individual resistance will never be enough. Seth has made that clear. Anyone who stands alone will be isolated, overwhelmed, and destroyed. The only way forward is unity, but unity requires leadership, and that is something the babyfaces currently lack. There is a growing sense that someone new or someone returning will need to step up and rally the roster before Seth's influence becomes absolute. The possibility of a veteran presence entering the picture has fans buzzing. The idea of a respected locker room leader confronting Seth's manipulation resonates deeply because it mirrors the story being told. This is not just about matches and wins, but about values, power, and the cost of ambition. Buddy Matthews' journey sits at the center of that debate. His choice to align with Seth has already reshaped how fans view him, and every action he takes from here on out will either reinforce the perception of betrayal or slowly rebuild trust through storytelling redemption. At the same time, AEW's response, or lack thereof, hangs over the narrative like an unanswered question. The House of Black continues on without him, but the absence is noticeable, and how that faction evolves will inevitably be compared to Buddy's trajectory in WWE. This cross-promotional tension fuels online discourse, turning Buddy into a symbol rather than just a wrestler. He represents choice, compromise, and the blurred line between principle and opportunity. As major events approach, the stakes rise dramatically. Royal Rumble season introduces chaos, and chaos is where factions like the Vision thrive. The thought of Seth, Buddy, and the authors of Pain working together in a match designed around survival and numbers advantage is enough to unsettle even the most confident competitors. Every elimination would feel personal, every alliance temporary. If the Vision dominates that environment, it would further cement Seth's claim that SmackDown belongs to him. WrestleMania looms even larger. This is the stage Buddy claims he came to WWE for, and the question remains whether he will reach it standing beside Seth or lying broken because of him. WrestleMania has a way of exposing truths. Alliances fracture, betrayals come to light, and characters are forced to confront who they really are. For Seth Rollins, it is an opportunity to crown himself the architect of total control. For Buddy Matthews, it may be the moment he realizes the price of the deal he made. For the locker room, it could be the final chance to unite against a tyrant before it is too late. What makes this story resonate is that there are no easy answers. Seth is not wrong when he says wrestling is a business, and Buddy is not entirely wrong for chasing the biggest stage. Yet something vital is lost when ambition eclipses identity, and fans sense that loss even if the characters do not. The Vision continues to march forward, crushing resistance and rewriting narratives, but the louder Seth declares his dominance, the closer he may be to triggering his own downfall. Empires built on fear rarely last forever. Eventually, someone finds the courage to stand up, to rally others, and to remind everyone that control is not the same as leadership. Until that moment arrives, SmackDown remains under siege, Buddy Matthews remains trapped in Seth Rollins' carefully constructed web, and the entire wrestling world watches with a mix of fascination and frustration, knowing that when this story finally explodes, the fallout will change everything.